We will open the meeting for the Conservation Commission for July 17th. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes for our June 9th meeting.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Moved. We have two new public hearings tonight, so 129 Bedford Street. We will open that one first. I will just read it into the records. So under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations. The West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing July 17th, 2018, in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for a request for determination of applicability filed by Jason and Allison Brooks for a grading to a residential yard for a new lawn within a 100-foot buffer at 129 Bedford Street. We're open. I think we've seen this before, but I'll pass it around so everybody can see it.
Do you have any additional plans or just the ones that you sent?
No,
Okay. Okay.
Put up the, I don't know if you got that picture from
Yeah.
yesterday.
So they have been before us before explaining what they want to do in their backyard and spread some loam and some fill material to even out the roughness of the yard. And the contractor next door ended up bringing the fill over before we had our meeting. So I asked them to put in straw wattles around the base of the stockpiles. And they sent some pictures today. I didn't print them out because I'm having trouble with our printers upstairs, but I did take a look at that. And so they are looking for a determination that the work that they're planning to do is not significant enough to require a notice of intent. And they also have realized that they have a yard that intrudes in the natural 50-foot buffer that is part of the lawn and weedy area that they are working in, so they were willing to plant some high bush blueberry or something like that to mitigate their intrusion into the 50-foot no-touch, which has already been disturbed, but they recognize that it's important to have that buffer, so, and it might help with the neighbor not seeing through. Did I kind of sum it up
Yeah.
for you?
So is the plan to honor the 50 and plant all along that?
This, I think one of the plans,
There it is.
So that's, right now, this is kind of the vicinity, there's a dashed wooded line, so this is the biggest drop off, and this is, I think, the area in question, biggest question for you guys, right? The grass line probably stops about on this grade right here. So, I mean, this is, it significantly falls off, and it's kind of wooded and sloped and weeded there, so doesn't really aesthetically go with the yard.
Right.
So it's
The woodland's kind of back here, and this is.
yeah, I mean,
drops
right
off.
now, there's more of a tree line along there, and this is just a kind of a wooded, it's small
Is
vegetation.
this lawn here?
Yes.
So when they built the house,
There were trees kind of along this way too. There were trees, I think, all throughout here. They took a bunch of them down here to put the
Right,
septic in
right,
when we
right.
bought the place.
right,
We lost a few during the storm and had some additional ones taken out too.
right.
When we bought the house, the yard was almost completely clear of trees that were probably there back in the 60s when the house was originally built.
Mhm.
When we bought the house, it was an existing yard with some additional trees that Jason had said a few of them had fallen, and then there was an old rickety shed that we had to remove because it was dangerous as well. So now we
Mhm.
just have the big gap in the middle of our usable yard
Right.
because we have the septic all the way to the left where we can't use any part of that yard anymore.
Right.
So we're just looking to level out that area just so we can have some sort of usable yard and have it look nice, because right now it's just weeds and horrible ugliness.
That area there is already all open.
So when you bought the house, for the most part, it was already there.
Yeah.
It was already disturbed
Yes.
Yeah.
for the most part.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of the fellow we had in last week that wanted to expand his yard next to the driveway, and he just,
Yeah, we're not looking to really
We're not
expand it,
looking
just
to
make it
expand.
what's in the
Level
perimeter
off what's
now,
already
make it,
there.
Yeah, more
yeah,
aesthetically pleasing.
previously disturbed, but, you
Yes.
know, if you had gone in there and cleared it out,
Yeah.
Yeah,
then
no,
that'd be a
it's-
different issue.
No, we
Yeah.
just want to level it, just so we have.
And where
some
were you
visible-
thinking of planting the blueberries?
We were gonna plant them probably towards the back corner,
Yeah.
So kind
using
of
the
back
yard
in this
where
area
that new
here?
house is being
Yeah,
built.
I mean, so this is kind of, if I had to guess, this corner, the medallions, this is basically the entire tree line, and then it starts
Yeah.
curving around to about
Right.
here. So this is about the usable part of the yard. So it would probably be in this vicinity.
The perimeter.
Yeah, I mean, because the grass does, it's hard to, I'd say this medallion is still grassy area that kind of does stem, it curls around a little bit, and it's
Mm.
been there, but it's somewhere in this general vicinity. If I guess lengthwise, John, it's probably 15, 20 feet maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm all set.
All right. Anybody have any questions in the audience? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. I will entertain a motion to approve the
Negative
a
3
-3.
determination.
Motion.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to work within the 50?
Doesn't the
Only-
-3 waive that off, or would it?
-3 just says that you don't they don't need to
To do a filing.
Okay.
another filing, but the
Still,
fact that they are in the 50-foot buffer does require the waiver. And the mitigation is the planting of the
Yes.
blueberry bushes.
So I'll make a motion that
To
we,
let them work within 50?
yeah.
Moved and second, all those in favor? So moved.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. Do we need
Appreciate it.
anything from
Yeah,
this?
yeah, we'll be sending you an actual determination
Okay.
that gives you your permit.
All right.
Great.
So,
All right.
Make it
Thank
look
you very
nice.
much. We
Thank you very
will.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
See you.
much.
Now you can get those piles taken care of.
Yeah, I didn't notice you walked by with your dog.
Yeah.
I looked up, I'm like, oh man, they came in that day, I'm like, this isn't. So, but we'll get them cleaned up.
Not a problem.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you guys,
Yes.
thank you.
Next, we have 94 Belmont Street. While you're setting up, I'll read that under the records. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations. The West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing July 17th in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for a request for determination of applicability filed by Donald and Janice Martin to upgrade a residential septic system within 100 feet of a BVW. Get green cards?
Green cards.
Take those.
Good evening, my name's Dave Clinner from Collins Civil Engineering Group, and we're here for an RDA for a septic repair on Belmont Street, I'm sorry, 94 Belmont Street. We've got a few lines here drawn. The yellow line that we show here is, that's the property line. The green is the wetland line, and the orange is the 50, and the purple or red is the 100-foot buffer. There is a drainage type of ditch going across the back of the property. And we're basically going to keep the system itself outside the 100-foot. It's 103 feet to the wetland. There will be some grading within the 100-foot, as you can see here. There will be, it's a slightly mounted system, or actually it is a mounted system. It's gonna be about 3.5 feet above the grade at that point because of the water table. We do propose erosion control fence, and it starts at the house, and it pretty much follows the limit of work with a little stockpile area here in the back. And then there's a fence that runs up along the property line, and we're gonna run the silt fence all the way to the street. There is a catch basin out there at the intersection of the roads, and we propose to install a silt sack at that catch basin to protect that. We do have a dewatering pit outside the 100-foot buffer. It's right beside the gazebo. There's a gazebo there, there's a pool there. It's really the only place that we could fit the system in, that's at this point. Moving it forward put it too close to the house. Putting it on the other side of the house would put it too close to the wetlands. The wetlands kind of come all the way up to the street here. It's kind of a drainage-like area that goes out, so. We had that flat by, I believe, Brookman Row.
Mhm.
The bridge in the back that's on the plan? Just a
It's an old wooden bridge. I got a picture of it.
footbridge or like
It's,
cart bridge or?
It's this bridge.
What kind of a role is that playing in this? I mean, I don't get the,
What kind of, the bridge is built and, I don't know, it's
It's been there.
I mean,
It's been
as
there.
It was there, so it had to.
as
yeah.
far as, yeah,
Yeah.
Doesn't really,
no.
about the heading, I was just curious where it went to and why it was
Oh,
there.
I
Yeah.
see, I
Going-
see.
Crossing a,
Yeah.
Well, when we see a bridge that's in the wetlands, we're gonna show it.
right,
Yes.
I mean, and I was questioning what it was there for, I mean, it
Yeah.
just,
I got you. Okay. Probably
We
been
are
there for a
proposing
while.
right, I mean, it's.
the medallions for the conservation signs.
Along the edge of the yard.
Yeah, along the edge of the yard, all the way down, and then along where it's mowed.
Mhm.
It's all previously disturbed area, as you can see from the pictures.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
No.
Abutters?
Okay, the 108 and Lot Street is just concerned that tons of water falling on top of the mound would not be coming onto our property next door. So he's
This
assuring me
way, yeah.
that 74 feet tall would not be a great inundation of 70 feet next door.
There is a fence there, and we can do something to buffer that water from going that way. It does drain. It does drain out, like we have a 70 here, we have a 70 here, then we have a 69 here. So it does drain towards the wetlands. But there might, if we can do some kind of buffer system on that side of the property line to get it to drain to the back.
Like a berm or?
Some kind of berm,
A
yeah.
berm or swale or something
Yeah.
to kind of catch it from, basically from the front of the
It
gazebo
looks like we
area.
could get a 1%, because here's 71, and there's 70, and it's about 100 feet, and it looks like we could get a 1% slope there.
So the southerly boundary.
Yeah, it's the southerly boundary.
So is that your concern, Beth?
That
So
was our concern.
they're gonna put a little
So if
berm
they
or
can
something?
put a berm up to
drain
control the
it?
water flow to drain it to the back of the property
That'd be
would.
fine.
Okay.
But when we were reorganizing or building Stonecroft Farm Lane, the Martins were concerned about drainage toward their property
Sure.
at that time
Yeah,
too.
sure,
So now it's just 15 years later.
Yeah.
We're concerned about what it's.
John, you have anything?
I have nothing, no issue with it.
Hearing no more comments, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Entertain for a number,
Negative
Three?
3, yep.
Yeah, thank you. Great. I'll make that motion.
Second.
moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. All righty, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have 109 Spring Street.
Doesn't seem as if anyone's here for that at this point.
We can move on to the next one,
Luke
which
States.
would be Luke Drive. Place.
Recommend a continuation to the next meeting.
I'll entertain a motion to continue to the next meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. 1 Ames Drive.
Same, I don't see anyone here for that one.
I don't think-
They're over at
Oh, okay.
Howard School.
I'll entertain a motion to continue 1 Ames Drive to our next meeting.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Mhm. Stony Road?
No one here for that one either.
You want to just hold off on Stony Road and Spring Street and
if
see
they-
what happens? Or
We
you wanna
better,
just-
we better.
Okay. So that will put us to
Enterprise.
Enterprise 2610 this way.
The last man standing over here. But I
Hey, at
think,
least you didn't have to go through all the others.
there you go. I think it's gonna be the same though, Mr. Chairman. We're, working through the peer review with Allen and Major. We just got the stuff to them last week. We haven't received anything back, as of yet from them, so I think we've just, unless the commission has any questions or anything, I think we'd like to just ask for a continuance. Hopefully we'll have the.
John, do you have any?
2 weeks.
Yeah, I think if we can try 2
I
weeks.
I don't have any issue with continuing, because from what I can see, the concerns are being brought out by Alan Major and the J.K. Holmgren is making the necessary replies to him, so I think eventually they'll get it worked out.
Good.
The first meeting in August? Good. All right. I'll entertain a motion to continue to the next meeting.
Make the motion.
Second it.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Do we need a motion to continue Stony Road?
We thought we'd wait.
Yeah, we're
Sure.
gonna,
They might
Stony
come out
Road and
just
Spring
for-
Street, just in case they walk in.
Okay.
I got a feeling they're not going to, but we'll have to make that motion eventually, but give them a little chance.
Okay.
That way there, if they do walk in, we're not gonna have to reconsider the,
Good. Okay.
All set.
so you're all set?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
He's here for the next
I have the
one,
next one.
Oh, okay.
265.
265 East Center Street?
Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering. This works. It's easier than setting up my easel though. What we have is a site that you folks issued an order of conditions back in January of 2016 for Victor Guerrero of Alga Construction at 265 East Center Street. At the time, Victor was looking to build a car wash.
Oh,
It was gonna be a 4-bay car wash.
Yeah.
It was permitted through both you folks and the Board of Appeals. Since then, for whatever reason, he wants to switch gears and go to more of a contractor's bay type of a situation, just breaking the building up into 3 separate units for whether it's an electrician or plumbers or something to that effect. So he's taken the car wash component out of it. So we've revised the plans to show a new building size. And what we're asking for is basically for you folks to just look at it and agree with us that it's a minor change and would not require any kind of an amendment. We've kept the drainage system exactly the same. The limit of work is exactly the same. The only difference in the site that you would notice, besides the building changing, but the parking area, we've actually pushed the parking a little bit further away from the wetland area out in the back. He just had a little bit more room in the back just for vacuums and things like that. So this plan here, the green line, is what the previous approved plan showed. And then we just have our parking there. So as I said, we've kept the limit of work exactly where it was and just worked out, made sure everything fit from there. We have the required parking. We're in the process of going through the Board of Appeals to get them to amend their special permit as well. So as I said, nothing is changing as far as impervious area goes. We were hoping that you folks could look at it as a minor change, not requiring any kind of an amendment.
The contractor units, garages, parking inside, or just,
They would have they'd be overhead doors, so
okay.
the chance for parking inside, yes.
You said there was a change in square footage of the building?
Yes,
Do you know how many? Did it increase or decrease?
it is 50, we're proposing 50 by 64, and it was 40 by 58, so 32 and we're now at 3,200, and I think they were at 2,600 maybe?
Okay.
Yeah, they were at 2,600, we're at 3,200. So we did increase the building size. The reason we're able to keep the pavement the same is just because they had a lot bigger area in front of the car wash and behind, just so you had room to vacuum the car either on the way in or the way out, so.
So we're not too concerned right now as to exactly what's going in there. Because I'm thinking of, oil drainage.
Right, that's what I'm thinking of,
Yeah.
sump drains or
Right.
anything inside if there's oil changes or.
So a
Chemical
building like this
storage or-
needs to have floor drains to a tight tank with a leak detection system
Anyway.
and
Right.
venting. Does that show up on the plans?
I have it on the plans, but I do not, we did not add the detail to it. I have the detail with me, but I'm looking at the plans tonight, I do not have the detail on the
They're
plan,
not
but it would be,
building the building.
as I said,
They're
the
just the site.
oil sand separator with a detection system
Right,
on it
right.
included.
So, this was approved as a car wash, as Scott indicated, and it was before it started before the stormwater bylaw. And now that they're changing the plans, theoretically, the commission could say we would want to now have some of the requirements of the stormwater bylaw included on this plan. So it's just a decision that the commission has to make. I think that since they are changing it, it does qualify for the stormwater bylaw, even though it's only a minor change in the use of the usable area, I should say. It does now open it up to the fact that you could ask for it. So it's a decision the commission has to make.
I'd be in favor of that, considering it's now in effect. Would it be a major conversation? Probably not, but.
I would think that they would be able to accomplish some of the requirements of the stormwater bylaw, so it's just a matter of going through the formality of it.
Yeah, okay.
It's not like it would kill the project.
Project, yeah. Okay. We'll
Yeah,
do
I think
that.
for the most part, it's just adding a water quality tank, doing, just a
Sure.
couple of different best management practices.
Yeah,
to come up with as
I'd be more
opposed to-
comfortable doing that.
Plus you want to review the plans anyway, right, John?
Yes.
For the building.
Right.
All right.
So have it reviewed?
So
As-
this is just an overview right now. This,
Right.
well, actually not, because you want prior approval, but now it's changed a little bit.
So the formal process for amending an order of conditions is the applicant requests that you consider it an amendment, and then the commission looks at it to see if it's a substantial enough change in the overall project to either call it a new notice of intent.
Right.
So you basically start all over
Right.
with all the filing fees and everything else, or that it requires a new public hearing and it will be amended, but we'll have some additional conditions put in, and that's where I think the conditions for the stormwater bylaw.
Yeah, I don't think we have to go through the whole
No,
process from the start. I think it could be
yeah,
an amended.
Okay.
I agree.
So, yeah, you do, I think in your special conditions, back from the previous one, that's exactly what it says.
Right.
The change is significant enough to require a new public hearing. So that's what we'd be looking at, final for new public hearing, but not necessarily the new fees and everything else.
Right.
Right.
It'll
Right.
still be under
Yeah.
the
Right.
current order of conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. That's great. That'll be fine.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you. We'll wait to.
All right, thank you very much, folks.
I wish we had the car wash, but.
So what you'll have to do
Handy.
is set it up with Kitty to get a public hearing notice in the
Sure.
paper.
Yep, get the.
No, he'll
parties
just
right.
file
Just
the
take care of that
application.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'cause he'll-
Okay,
yeah.
All
very
right.
good. Thank
Okay,
you, John.
all right, Scott.
And that way there where you know what we're looking for, you can have that all on up ahead of time.
Yep. Make it quick and easy.
Great.
Go. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night.
55 Crescent Street.
No new information on that, so we'll have to put it on the next agenda.
Scotland Street, the model plane.
Same thing.
Alrighty. And we have some certificate of compliance requests. 16 Scotland Street.
16 Scotland had requested a certificate of compliance at sometime around January of this year or last winter, let's say. And of course, it wasn't growing anything, so I had recommended not to issue it. I explained that to the engineer and the applicant, and they decided rather than putting a bond to cover the cost of putting some grass in when the growing season restarted, they would just wait, because the fellow still owns the property and he's just renting it to his son. So there was no rush. I got the word a couple of weeks ago that it was all set to take a look at and the grass was growing sufficiently enough. Stopped by, verified that it is, and so I'm recommending that you issue a certificate of compliance with no bond.
I'll entertain a motion to issue.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
I didn't get the maker and the seconder.
Mo
Mo,
made
was
it
the
and
maker.
Steve second.
okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to figure who likes to grow.
Just slow us down.
It's like an auction where you just lift your little finger, you have
Yeah,
to watch.
I know. We'll have to be a little more.
128
verbal.
Crescent Street.
This one, I did an inspection today, and it is fine with a good grass cover, so I'm recommending a COC with no bond.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to issue the certificate of compliance without a bond for 128 Crescent Street.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All those
All those in favor?
in, aye.
Opposed? So moved. And we have a request for a certificate of compliance for 612 East Street.
This one is a fairly older one that had slipped through the cracks that somebody forgot to ask for it, and now they're selling it again, so they need the certificate of compliance, and I inspected it. It was a real tight fit in the first place, and we approved it. Probably this one back then could have required some additional treatment rather than just the conventional system, but that was back then.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, the grass is growing real good around it, and I'm recommending issuing a certificate with no bond.
I'll entertain a motion to reissue the certificate of compliance for 612 East Street.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And we have request for certificate of compliance on 8 North Main Street, which is Cumberland Farms, and we have 2 requests.
Yeah, there are 2 different file numbers that never were requested for certificates on either one of them, and apparently there's some transaction that's going to occur with it, whether it's refi or some type of refinancing, but they do need a certificate at this point, and so, being so old, 328 220 and 328 382 is way back. I did receive as-bills and all the proper documentation for it, and therefore am recommending a certificate with no bond.
So it's something that never cleared
Right.
originally?
Yeah.
Most of the time, they probably weren't using bank money, and
Yeah,
And maybe they're planning
whatever.
some addition, maybe, I don't know, I don't wanna start any rumors, cause I don't know that, but somebody,
Renovations,
obviously,
the way they're
somebody's
doing them
gotta
to
use
most of them
some.
now, they're all getting upgrades, so.
Because I know our parks, the park, Chris, was chasing them to get their lawns in shape over there, taking pictures and sending them to,
Oh, being in the downtown district, they probably need to,
was looking
Yeah.
a little
Look a little better.
shabby and, yeah.
All right then, I'll entertain a motion to issue certificate of compliance for both.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Just a request. I was just gonna leave the piles.
Yeah.
Anything else, Kitty, for signatures?
Yes, the two that we did tonight, the two DOAs. And then we have also one money matter with our MAC dues.
That is for Belmont Street. And that one is Bedford Street.
now, I spoke to the attorney for 109 Spring Street, and he did indicate he was gonna be coming, but there was a flurry of email back and forth between the 53G reviewer who had worked for the planning board and the attorney and the commission. And the gist of it was that the attorney felt that the reviewer for the planning board had found that all of the drainage was sufficient from the planning board's rules and regulations. And the 53G consultant had indicated that there were the stormwater rules and regulations that we now have, and that he did not review that as part of the planning board's review because it has nothing to do with their regulation. So I think once that was explained by that reviewer, the attorney understood and decided maybe not to come. So since we've given them ample time, I would recommend continuing it to the next meeting.
And again, we're looking at that stormwater review just like we are doing on this other one.
Yes,
Because
even though there was.
it's a major
approval,
change to the
yeah.
plan. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's enough of a change that
It-
it
Yeah,
falls under the,
because it's a multi-unit development.
Right,
That's
and-
pretty
Well,
much.
he
and it went from 6 down to 3, and there's,
What about a single-family home? Would that come under?
Only if it's over 15,000 square feet. So yes, it could, but it's a pretty
It's not
straight.
pretty big.
But if it's under that,
Yeah.
it's just an administrative thing that we can sign and not have to hold a public hearing on. And so, the attorney was trying to say, under the Wetlands Protection Act, because it was only 3 lots, or 3 units, let's say, that it didn't qualify under the Wetlands Protection Act stormwater regulation. But the 53G did point out that it does qualify under the town stormwater bylaw, so it still applies no matter what size, because we don't differentiate between the number of units. We only look at if it's greater than 15,000, and it
Okay.
definitely is.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'll make a motion to continue.
Did you make it?
Yes.
I'll second.
moved and seconded to continue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moved. And that leaves us Stony Road.
Stony Road, I believe the engineers have brought the project to a point where it doesn't really have to file with the conservation because the, everything's over 100 feet away from the wetlands. But I did point out to them that because they are disturbing so much of the area, that they do qualify under the stormwater bylaw. So that's why it's continued, and so I think they need to come in and say, we are withdrawing our notice of intent, but we're gonna refile under the stormwater bylaw. And I think we ought to keep it open so they can come in and tell us that, officially tell us that. And in the interim, between now and the next meeting, I will try to get a clarification from them where they stand with us so that we can get it, instead of guessing, we'll get it right from them and understand what they're shooting for.
Good.
I'll entertain a motion to continue.
No, make the motion.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Kitty, the Mac Jews. Anybody have anything else? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Moved and seconded for adjourn, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. I did not think we'd be getting out this early tonight. I would,
Well, some of these,
right, I mean,
Lucas States and